Third time's the charm. Come on in. We're having some computer problems or phone problems or sunspot problems. I'm not really sure what the problem is, but we thought we'd go directly to video today to tell this little story that happened in 1997 during the Ringo's All-Star Tour, his fourth outing, and it was a fun, fun tour wrapping up in Hollywood, California. The night before the big finale for the Ringo show, though, another one of my favorite bands was playing out there, so I went out for the weekend a little early and caught up with Grand Funk Railroad playing at in Hollywood as well, and caught up with them after the show. And all three of these guys, Mel, Mark, and Don, signed the album for me. And Mel Shaker was like my bass playing tutor in 1972. He doesn't know it, but I learned to play bass myself off of that Red album. Was one of the albums that I tried to learn every note so I'd be able to play bass with some of that real rock and roll from 1972. But the next night was the big night out in Hollywood because Ringo was bringing the all-star band to Los Angeles and Hollywood. And this tour was such a great show because Ringo was in fine form. They were really hitting their stride by the time they got to Hollywood. And the band members like Gary Brooker brought songs like Whiskey Train and Conquistador and, of course, Whiter Shade of Pale into the mix. Jack Bruce brought White Room and Sunshine of Your Love and I Feel Free. Peter Frampton played Do You Feel Like I Do and Show Me the Way. Some great rock and roll tunes from the times there, and some photos taken throughout the tour here. I got to see this tour probably a dozen times as it made its way across the country, and it was a really great show. Simon Kirk on second drums back there playing All Right Now and Shooting Star, which mentioned first time you heard a Beatles song in the lyrics of that tune. Great band. And over the course of the tour, I got to meet up with all the band members to get them to sign a photo that I'd taken. There's Ringo signing one that he signed for me. Simon Kirk on drums here. Jack Bruce signed that one. He talked about that being his favorite waistcoat and rolled his eyes when he said that. I'm not too sure he was serious about that being his favorite. Gary Brooker signed this one for me. Mark Rivera signed this one, and Peter Frampton signed this one all the way across the top there for me. Now, going into the arena at the Universal Amphitheater or theater there, they had a very strict no bags policy. If you know me, I always have my bag with me, and the fella at security said that you can take your camera in, but you cannot take your camera bag. Absolutely no bags in the arena. I said, well, what am I going to do with it? And he said that, well, you can go through those two doors right there, and there's a locker there. You can, the security guy will secure it for you, and you can pick it up after the show. So I said, okay. Go through these two big elephant equipment doors, and I'm in the backstage area where catering is setting up the long S-shaped tables, and they're getting everything ready for the after show. So I checked my bag into the little compartments there, and go back out, shoot the first 3 songs of the show, and go to my seat and watch the rest of the show. And after the show, go to back to those doors to go get my bag. A different security guy is standing there this time saying, you can't go back there unless you have a backstage pass, which that was not. And I explained to him that I had my bag there. He says, not going to happen. Fortunately, I was able to find the other security guard that took me back there the first time. He walked me back to this guy and said that this fella has his bag, his camera bag back there, so he's going to go get it. And they opened the doors for me, and I walked through the doors, and now this room, that's probably about 5 times the size of this room, is absolutely packed with people. And all these people are the members of the band and the folks that had joined Ringo on stage for the last number, people like Edgar Winter and Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad, and Gary Wright, and some others had joined for the Little Help from My Friends finale. And the first people that I see walking as I'm walking through the door are Don Brewer and Mel from Grand Funk Railroads. And so I just casually say hello because I'd just spoken with them last night, and I'm standing there talking with the two guys from Grand Funk, and Gary Wright turns around and kind of enters the conversation, and we're standing chatting a little bit as I'm seeing Alice Cooper walking over through the way. Eric Clapton comes walking across the way over here. I'm seeing Paula Abdul is sitting talking to Christina Applegate. The Married with Children was a big hot show at that time, and let's see, I remember Callista Flockhart, tiny little waif of a girl, standing talking to someone. I'm not sure whether it was Harrison Ford or not, because I don't know that I knew that they were together. But anyway, this was a Hollywood party of the AAA list that I'm kind of standing there in the middle of, watching all of these entertainers entertain each other. And I'm talking to Gary Wright, and he mentions the fact that they wish, because Gary had come out on stage for the finale, he says that he wished that they could have gotten Jeff to come up on stage too. And I naturally just said, Jeff who? And he said, Jeff Lynne, of course. And he poked the fellow beside him, and Jeff Lynne, Electric Light Orchestra, turns around and says hello, and we're standing and chatting. Now, my bag is still in the locker on the other side of the room, and I'm thinking I absolutely must violate the policy here and ask. Actually, there were some other fans that were back there too, and I'd seen several other people who'd signed some autographs there. So I pulled out, I had just a couple of sheets of paper with me in my pocket, and I pulled out a sheet of paper and asked Jeff Lynne if he would mind signing just a piece of paper for me, and I told him that I would add that to the Wilburys albums that I'd already had some folks sign. And he said, well, if you're wanting my signature, you might want this fellow's signature too. And he introduces me to Mookie Noki of the Ventures, and Jeff seemed much more excited about talking to the guy from the Ventures than any of the other celebrities in the room. So I just kind of backed away from them, let them have their conversation. And I'm standing just watching these folks chat, and I overhear someone talking to Van Dyke Parks. So I kind of listen into that conversation for a moment, just get a break in the conversation, and pulled out another piece of paper and asked Mr. Parks if he would mind signing an autograph, and he autographed that piece of paper to me with a nice little drawing on that. And I'm standing back again, listening, eavesdropping in on the conversation, and I hear someone introduce a Keith beside me, and I look at the guy that they're describing as Keith, and I realize that it's Keith Allison of the Paul Revere and the Raiders, and his own solo solo career as well. And I asked him if he would add his signature to that piece of paper there too, and just to shake the hand of one of the Raiders. Another flashback even further than the Grand Funk days. So what a mishmash of wonderful celebrities standing back there in that Hollywood backstage area. And it was really, really thrilling to accidentally meet these two and those two, and as well just watching these. Jack Bruce at one point was sitting, I remember, he had his hands up behind him, and his feet were up on the table, but then the waiters or the servers were moving bottles all around him, and he held up one and held out another hand, and they put another drink in his other hand. It was so funny. Jack seemed like he enjoyed his level of party. I've got another story about Jack Bruce that I'm going to tell one of these visits too. So hope you've enjoyed that little chat about
security guard.
Oh, that's right. I left out the ending of that. So we can say that after I was talking to Keith and Van Dyke, I'm standing pretty much by myself, and I notice a guy in totally black making his way over toward me, and he had this look of very stern look on his face, and he saddles up beside me and says something like, can I ask you a question? And I thought the answer to the question would be, I'll be leaving right now, okay? But he says, who's that tall gentleman right there that you were talking to? And I said, oh, that's Don Brewer, the drummer for Grand Funk Railroad. And he says, oh, he says, it seems like you know everyone. Who is that? I said, that's Gary Wright, and explained to who that is. He says, that fellow over there, that's Alice Cooper, isn't it? I said, that is Alice Cooper. And so suddenly I had a buddy in the with the security detail there. And at one point, Ringo had his own little hooded or canopied area that was a super security. I didn't even try to make my way over there because Joe Walsh was escorting people in and out. In fact, at one point he came and got Jeff Lynne, and they went backstage and or backstage into Ringo's special area. And but at one point, a little later in the evening, a half hour later or so, because I was just standing watching all this happen right around me, and Ringo kind of stuck his head through the little sheer curtains that they had there, and he says, "Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming." And saw his car pull out from behind on the other side of the canopy there, and within what seemed like 30 seconds, the entire room was empty, and it was me and the security guard standing there saying something like, he said, well, that didn't take long to clear out, did it? So I finally went and got my bag and made my way out of the backstage area there, found my way back to the car and the hotel, amazed at them, the luck that I'd had by just, again, being in the right place at the right time. And sort of should be my my trademark, I guess. But I hope you enjoyed that little catch up of the 97 tour, and we'll do it again on Friday, and we'll see how the technology is going to work on Friday, okay? Peace and love in science.